Hello friends, I welcome you all to Coders Companion and today we are going to cover exception handling interview questions in Java. Please like, share and subscribe to support us. So without any further delay, let's get started. The very first question is what is exception in Java? An exception is an abnormal event that disrupts the flow of normal program execution that unless handled could lead to the termination of a program. So, an exception is an error event that can happen during the execution of a program and it disrupts its normal flow. The exception can arise from different kinds of situations, such as wrong data entered by the user, hardware failure, network connection failure, etc. So, in real world scenario, a program could run into an exception if it tries to access a corrupted or non-existent file, or if a network error happens, or if the JVM runs out of memory, or if the code is trying to access an index of an array which does not exist, and so on. So, there could be multiple of exceptions that we need to handle. The next question is what is exception handling in Java? So, exception handling is the technique of handling unexpected failures that could occur in a program so that the program does not terminate and normal execution flow is maintained. So, what do we mean over here? That if we apply try catch finally, if we use these blocks to handle the exception, so that is what is called as exception handling. So consider an example where we have six statements. See here we have six statements. Statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, statement 4, statement 5 and statement 6 as shown in the image. So statement 1 and statement 2, these two execute successfully. While executing the statement 3, an unexpected error occurred. Now, the Java program checks if there is an exception handling. If it is handled properly, then the statement 4 is executed. Else, the program gets terminated. So, we need to handle the exceptions in Java in a very defined manner. The next question is why do we need exception handling in Java? So, it avoids the abnormal program termination and normal flow of the program is maintained. So this is what I have mentioned it over here, that the main advantage of the exception handling technique is to maintain the normal flow of the program. Then it provides the flexibility to the programmers in handling the situation of errors, like in cases of failures, thereby making the application more robust and immune to the unexpected scenarios. The third one is it provides us it allows us to define a user friendly message to handle the exception, which means that it provides stable user experience in case of failure by providing the means to let the user know what made the program fail. So if there is no try catch block while an exception occurs, the program will terminate. Exception handling ensures the smooth running of a program without the program termination. The next very important question asked in the interviews is how can you handle the exceptions in Java? So, exception handling, which is very important, can be handled through try catch and finally block. So, the try, what does it do? It has the set of statements or a code which requires the monitoring for an exception is kept under the try block. In catch block, it catches all the exceptions that were occurred in the try block, and the last one is the finally block. Now this finally block always is performed irrespective of catching of the exceptions in the try block or the catch block. So always remember that finally block will always be executed if we have defined it. The next question is what are the three forms of the try block? Now, there are three possible forms of the try block, that are try, catch, try finally, try, catch, and finally. And the general syntax can also be asked in the interviews. So, this is a kind of syntax that you need to define it over there, where we are defining try, catch, the name of the exception that should be thrown in the catch, and the last one is the finally block. So, this is the order that needs to be maintained, like try, catch, try finally, or try, catch, and finally. Always remember that the finally block will always be executed. Now, what is a finally block in Java? This is also a very common question that is asked in the interview. So, to answer it, a finally block is a block of code that is always executed whether an exception occurs within a try block or not. A finally block or a clause is used for freeing up the resources, cleaning up the code, DB closing connection, IO stream for terminating the threads, etc. And we create a finally block without creating a catch block. So remember that the finally block executes whether an exception arises or not, or whether the exception is handled or not. And a finally block always contains all the crucial statements regardless of the exception occurs or not. The crucial statement includes like that we have mentioned, that freeing up of the resources, cleaning up of the code, DB closing connection, IO stream, terminating the threads. So all this is handled in the finally block. One of the most important favorite question, I would say, is the difference between the finally block and the finalized block. So a finally block is a block in Java, whereas a finalize is a method in Java. Finally is a block that is always associated with try and catch block, whereas finalize is a method applicable to objects. A finally block clean up the resources that are used in try block, whereas finalize method performs the cleanup of the activities related to the object before its destruction. Finally block executes just after the execution of try catch block, and finalize method executes just before the destruction of the object. So these are the four major points that you will have to answer if the question is asked about the difference between the finally block and the finalized block. The next, one of the most important question again about the exception topic is that name the different types of exception. So the exceptions are categorized into the checked exceptions and the unchecked exceptions. The checked exceptions are also called the compile time exceptions because these exceptions occurs at the because these exceptions can be checked at the compile time by the compiler, and unchecked exceptions are just the opposite of the checked exceptions. The compiler will not check these exceptions at the compile time. So the important differences between both of them is that the checked exceptions are checked and handled at the time of compilation, whereas unchecked exceptions are not checked and handled at the compilation time. They occur during the runtime of the program and cannot be anticipated by the compiler. Second difference is about the checked and the unchecked is that the program would give compilation error if the checked exceptions are not handled, and program compiles successfully, but the exception could occur at runtime due to logical errors in the program. The third difference is checked exception requires the handling using the try catch block, or at least the method should use the throws keyword to let the calling method know that a checked exception could be thrown from this method. And unchecked exception do not require try catch or throws handling. These exception could occur due to the mistake in the programming logic. Now, some of the examples of the checked exception are IO exception, file not found exception, data access exception, interrupted exception, etc. And about the examples of the unchecked exceptions are arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, null pointer exception, and invalid class exception. So these all kind of exceptions are very important. So these all kinds of exceptions are very important, and these should be known to each and everyone. The next question is, what are the important methods of the Java exception class? So there are five important methods. The methods name are get message method, get localized message method, get cause method, toString method, and print stack trace method. So what does the get message method return? So this method return the message string of the throwable, and the message can be provided while creating the exception through the constructor. Talking about the get localized message, this method is provided so that the subclass can override it to provide the specific message to the calling program. Now the throwable class implementation of this method simply use the get message method to return the exception message. Then we can talk about the get cause method. This method return the cause of the exception or the null ID. The cause is unknown. Then toString method. Now, this is one of the important method which returns the information about the throwable in string format. The returned string contains the name of the throwable class and the localized message. And you must have seen and must have used this print stack trace method, which prints the stack trace information to the standard error stream. This method is overloaded and we can pass the print stream or the print writer as an argument to write the stack trace information to the file or the system. So remember, there are five methods which are most importantly used while handling the exceptions, that get message method, get localized message method, get cause method, toString method, and print stack trace method. The next question is, what happens if the main method throws an exception? I think everyone must have encountered this when if the main method throws an exception or not. So when an exception is thrown by the main method, JVM terminates the program and prints the exception message and stack trace in the system console. So I have created an example where I'm throwing the exception. See, I'm throwing this exception in the main method, and this is my main method on the line number 8. And when I executed the program, the JVM terminated the program and printed the exception message and stack trace in the system console. So it printed my message over here. The next important question asked in the interview is that can we write only the try block without a catch block? So the answer to this question is yes, we can have the try block without the catch block by using the finally block. Finally block always executes even if you have exception, or return the statement in try block except in case of system.exit method. So this is what we have already discussed in the previous slides, that we can have try and finally, and the finally block will always be executed. Like I have created the example where we can see that a try block alone is not complete construct for handling the exceptions. So you have to provide a mechanism for dealing with exceptions that may occur within the try block. See, this is the example where we can see that this try block and the finally block are getting executed. The next question is, what happens when you have return statement in the try block? Now, if you have the return statement in the try block, still the finally block will be executed. Now, this can be seen from the example where I have created the program that has a return statement in the try block. See, this is what I have returned, return from my try block. Now, once it encounters the return statement, the flow will immediately transfer to the finally block and it will execute that executing finally block. Now, upon the completion of the finally block, the control goes back to the return statement that is in the try block and returns the from the try block. See, it is showing me executing the try block. First, it executed line number 13. Then it went in the finally block and executed line number 15. And then again, it went back to the try block and executed the return from try block. Now, if the finally block has a return statement, then the return statement from the try or the catch block will be overridden. The next question is, what happens if you have return statement in finally block 2? That this is what we have discussed in the last slide. So it overrides whatever is returned by the try block. See, it is showing me executing the try block. The line number 12 is executed. Then line number 15 is executed, executing the finally block. And then line number 16 is executed, return from the finally block. So that it overrides whatever is returned by the try block. So the key points to understand here is that the return in the finally will always be executed regardless of whether an exception is thrown or not in the try block. If this try block throws the exception, then also the finally block will be executed. And if the try block does not throw the exception, then also the finally block will be executed. Next question is, what if exception is thrown in the try block? This is again the question that we have discussed in the last slide, that if an exception is thrown from the try block, even when there is no catch block to handle the exception, the finally block still executes. In that case, the exception is still thrown immediately after the finally block finishes the execution. So friends, always remember that the finally block is always and always executed regardless of whether the exception is thrown in the try block or not. So here it is executing the finally block when I have created this method. Next question is, what happens if we have the statements after the finally block and the control is returning from the finally block itself? Now this gives us an unreachable code error As the control is returning from the finally block itself, the compiler will not look into the statements after it. However, it shows an unreachable code error. So to make you understand in a better way, I have created one example of unreachable code example, and you can very well see that after the finally block got executed, I have written one more SOP on line number 14, and then it showed me unreachable code. So what is unreachable code in Java? So it is the code that the compiler can determine that will never be executed because the control flow of the program makes it impossible to reach that code. So the code cannot reach to line number 14. It can occur in various situations, such as after a return statement within a method, or after a throw statement that throws an exception, or after a loop that never exits, among others. So, in this example, the SOP after finally block is considered unreachable because it cannot be executed due to the return statement within the try block. See, that is why this is the unreachable code. Next question is, can you have an empty catch block? Interviewers generally ask these kind of questions to confuse the interviewee. So always remember that we have to answer these questions very accurately. And for this, the question is, can you have an empty catch block? So yes, you can write a try block without a catch block, but you must include either a catch block or a finally block, or both, to handle or manage the exception. So generally, the try block has the code which is capable of producing the exceptions if anything wrong in the try block. For instance, like a divide by zero, file not found error occurs. So it will generate an exception that is caught by the catch block. The catch block catches and handles the exception. If the catch block is empty, like here it is empty, right? Then we will have no idea what went wrong within our code. So when you will execute this program, the catch block catches the exception but doesn't print anything in the console. See, it is empty. So this makes the user think that there is no exception in the code. So it's a good practice to print the exception message in the catch block. We should not leave it empty. Although we can leave it empty, but it is not a good practice. We should always write what kind of exception is being thrown from the try block. Next question is it possible to have a return statement in the catch or the finally block? Yes, we can write a return statement of the method in catch and finally block. Like there is a situation where a method will have a return type, and we can return some value at any part of the method based on the conditions. So so there are two parts. If we return a value in the catch block and we can return a value at the end of the method, the code will execute successfully. Now, as shown in the example, the return statement of the catch block is executed as there is no finally block. See, I have written in the catch block return 1 on line number 9, and this is getting returned because there is no finally block defined in this class. Now, let's continue further. The finally blocks will still execute even if the catch block has a return statement. If both the catch and finally return, the receiving method will get the returned value from the finally block. Now, in this example, you can see that we have return statement in the try block, we have return statement in the catch block, and we have return statement defined in the finally block. So what is happening is the finally block return statement gets executed, and hence the answer is 30. Next question is, what is Java exception hierarchy? Now, exceptions can be divided into two major categories. One is error, and the another one is exception. Now, what is error? Error is a subclass of throwable. Errors are those situations which tells that there is something severe problem which is causing the ending of the program. Now, some of the examples of the error classes are like out of memory error, stack overflow error, class format error, no class definition found error, thread death error, virtual machine error. There are plenty of errors. Then exception. Exception class is the child class of the throwable. Now, exceptions can be further divided into two major categories, that are checked exceptions and the unchecked exceptions. As already discussed, that the checked exceptions are called the compile time exceptions and unchecked exceptions are called the runtime exceptions. We already know that the checked exceptions are extended from the exception class. These are also known as compile time exceptions because the compiler checks at the time of compilation whether such exceptions are handled or not, like no such method error, IO exception error, file not found exception, class not found exception. All these kind of exceptions come into the checked exceptions. And unchecked exceptions, these are extended from the runtime exception. Now, all the subclasses of the runtime exceptions are unchecked exceptions. They are also known as runtime exception because the compiler doesn't bother about such exceptions like null pointer exception, arithmetic exception, illegal argument exception, index out of bound exception. All these kind of exceptions come into the runtime exception. The next very important question is, what is the difference between the error and the exception in Java? Now, both the exception and errors are the subclasses of the throwable class that we have seen over here. So, the error implies a problem that mostly arises due to the shortage of the system resources. On the other hand, the exception occurs during the runtime and the compile time. So, let us find out some of the major differences between the error and the exception. An error is caused due to lack of system resources, whereas an exception is caused because of the code. An error is irrecoverable, whereas an exception is recoverable. There is no mean to handle the error by the program code, whereas exceptions are handled using three keywords: try, catch, and throw. Errors are classified as unchecked type, whereas exceptions are classified as checked and unchecked type. Some of the example of error are like out of memory error, stack overflow error, whereas the examples of exception are like no such method exception, class not found exception, null pointer exception, index out of bound exception. What is the difference between throw and throws keyword in Java? Now, both of these concepts are used for exception handling, but there is a fundamental difference between the throw and the throws in Java. We use throw keyword to declare what exceptions we can throw from a method. The throws keyword, on the other hand, is mainly used to throw an exception explicitly within a block of a code or a method. So a throw is used to throw an exception explicitly, and a throws is used to declare one or more exceptions separated by the commas. A throw can throw a single exception using throw, whereas we can use multiple exceptions using the throws. The throw is keyword is used in the method, whereas signature method is used with the keyword throws. Only unchecked exceptions are propagated using the throw keyword, whereas to raise an exception, throws keyword followed by the class name and checked exceptions can be propagated. Throw keyword is followed by the instance variable. The throws keyword is followed by the exception class. Now the next question is, in what scenarios or conditions the finally block will not be executed? So when the system.exit method is invoked before executing the finally block, like here I have defined system.exit on line number 8. If you can see in the try block, then the finally block will not be executed. Always remember that the finally block is always executed, but there are certain conditions when we can stop the execution of the finally block, and one of the condition is like defining the system.exit method in the try block. Also, when an exception happens in the finally block, now there could be certain situations if the exception uh, gets throws in the finally block, like it is being thrown over here. So it is only printing inside catch, and in the finally block the error occurred. So this is also one of the way to stop the execution of the finally block. The next important question asked is, what is the difference between the class not found exception and no class definition found error? So class not found exception, as stated by the name, that it is an exception and it is of type java.lang.exception, whereas no class definition found error is an error and it is of type java.lang.error. Now, the class not found exception occurs when an application tries to load a class at runtime which is not updated in the class path. And no class definition found error occurs when a Java runtime system does not find a class definition which is present at the compile time but is missing at the runtime. The class not found exception is thrown by the application itself. It is thrown by the methods like class.forName, load class, and find system class. Whereas no class definition found error is thrown by the Java runtime system. Class not found exception occurs when a class path is not updated with the required jar files. Whereas no class definition found error occurs when the required class definition is missing at the runtime. Some of the examples of the class not found exception are out of memory, stack overflow exception, whereas the example of the no class definition found error are like no such method, class not found, null pointer, and index out of bound. Now, what is the stack overflow error in Java? This is one of the most basic question that is asked to check that how much knowledge you have in the exception handling concepts. So stack overflow error is a runtime error in Java It is thrown when an application recurses too deeply. Whenever the method execution happens, a call stack with limited amount of memory location is assigned. So a stack overflow error simply signals that there is no memory available. Now here I have shared the example to demonstrate the same. It is showing me stack overflow example, which means that there is no memory available. The next question is how to catch multiple exceptions in Java. Now before Java 7, we had to write multiple exceptions, handling code for different type of exceptions, even if there was code redundancy. So in Java 7 and later, we can now catch more than one type of exception in a single catch block. Each exception type can be handled by the catch block, which is separated using a vertical bar or pipe. See, all the exceptions are handled in this catch block, and they are separated by the pipe. Its syntax is defined over here. Catching multiple exceptions in a single catch block reduces code duplication and it increases the efficiency as well. So here I have created an example to show you, like here in, if you can see that in the line number 9, I have created multiple exceptions: arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, and it is showing me the output as divided by 0. So it is throwing multiple exceptions that are separated by pipe. The next question is how to avoid the null pointer exception in Java 8. So in Java 8, you can encounter the null pointer exception if you attempt to access a method or a field of an object that is null. To avoid the null pointer exception, you can use various techniques and features. So basically, Java 8 introduced the optional class which can be used to represent an optional value that may or may not be present. You can use optional to handle null values safely. So this is the example that I have created. And you can see that optional dot off nullable, this is the one that is handling the exception. See, this text is defined over here, and here on line number 6 the text is null. So this is handling, and it is going into the else block and printing that value is null. The next question is what is exception propagation? Now exception propagation in Java occurs when an exception is thrown from the top of the stack. When it is not, the exception drops down the call stack of the preceding method. Now, from the example, you can see that method A is the main entry point and it calls method B. I have defined method A over here and it is calling method B. Now, method B is called from method A and it calls method C. See this on line number 20, it is calling method C. So, method C contains the code. This is the code that intentionally throws arithmetic exception by attempting to divide it by 0. Now, when you run this Java program, you will see that inside method A, inside method B, and inside method C, it is caused in the main method by 0 is shown over here. See, exception is caught in the main method by 0. So if you can see that I have printed the SOP that inside method A, inside method B, and inside method C, and it is lastly showing me the error, the exception that it is caused in the main, that is divided by 0. Now, here's how the exception propagates in this example, that an exception is thrown in method C. Now, since this method C does not catch the exception, it propagates up to method B. Now, since method B does not catch the exception itself, it further propagates to method A. And finally, the main method catches the exception and print it on the console. So, this demonstrates that how the exception propagate through multiple function calls until they are caught and handled by the appropriate catch block. The next question is what is exception chaining? So exception chaining occurs when one exception causes the another exception. The original exception is the cause of the second exception. In Java, a chained exception is an exception that is caused by the another exception. So this is the example of exception chaining, where I have defined in the main method the test method, which is the entry point, and the test method is showing me the arithmetic exception. Okay, so the chained exception helps to relate one exception to another. Often we need to throw a custom exception and want to keep the detail of the original exception, that in such scenarios we can use the chained exception mechanism. The next question is what is try with resources? Now the try with resource feature was introduced in the Java 7 version. This feature helps to close the resources declared in the try block automatically after the execution of the block is complete, the general syntax of use try with resources is this one. You can see that how we can define the try with resources. Now, in this syntax, the resources are declared in the try block. You can declare multiple resources in the try block. After the execution of the try block, the close method of the resources will be called, which will handle the closing of the resource. And every resource declaration is separated by a semicolon in case of multiple resources that are declared in the try block. So I have created an example where we can see the try with resources example. The next question is, what is user defined exceptions? User defined exceptions are the exceptions created by the programmers to use their own designed exceptions, and those are not present in Java exception library. Custom exceptions in Java are those exceptions that are created by a programmer to meet the specific requirement of the application. So this is example of the user defined exception. So I have created a custom class named the custom exception. See, here I have defined a custom exception. This line number 19, here I have defined a custom exception which extend the built-in exception. So the custom exception class has a constructor that accept a message as a parameter, and it passes that message to the super class constructor using the super method, which is this one, line number 7. Now, in the main method, we simulate a situation where a custom exception might occur by setting the age variable to a negative value. See, here I have defined that the age could be -5. Now, inside the if block, we throw the custom exception with a custom error message that age cannot be negative. So, we catch the custom exception in the catch block and print the custom error message. So, when you will run this program on the console, you can see that we are getting the age cannot be negative exception, which is a custom defined exception, which is a user defined exception. The next question is, it is always recommended to close the DB resources to keep them inside a finally block. Why? So the finally block is the block that is always executed no matter whether the exceptions are raised or not or caught. So cleanup operations ensure that these will be executed always irrespective of whether an exception occurs or not. So this question can be asked to check the basic depth of the exception handling that you can have. The next one is, what are some of the best practices to be followed while dealing with exception handling? So use the specific exception as much as possible for the sake of better messages and easier debugging. Throw exception early in the program. This follows the fail fast approach to development. Catch exceptions late in the program, that is, the caller has to handle the exception. If you are using Java 7 and above versions, make use of the feature of the try with resources block to close the resources properly. In this way, we do not have to remember to ensure all the resources have been closed in the finally block. Always log the exception messages with the meaningful messages. This helps in easier debugging. Use multiple catches that follow the rule of most specific exceptions at the top and the most generic exceptions at the bottom. And the last one is, if the exception types provided by Java do not match your use case, make sure to use custom exceptions with meaningful error messages. So with this, we have come to an end of the session based on the exception handling interview questions. So I wish all the candidates a very good luck if you are participating in some interview for the role of Java framework developer, and this will surely help you.